All right, fastest 15 minutes on the internet, fastest 15 minutes in social media. My name is Judson Powell. All right, since I had this little accident or whatever, and been on under a doctor's care, um, I've been trying to keep everything straight. But the one thing that I've been doing is I've been watching too much TV. I usually don't watch TV at all, so um, this is like a very new and very unusual for me to like be watching television. But when I stopped and I was like, man, and so my wife, she likes a lot of these, who done it, solve this, that, and the other thing, and cop shows and stuff like that. So I started watching the first 48, right? And so they got it now so that I guess what the young folks call binge watching. You could like watch a whole season like in one setting or whatever. So there have been a lot of these shows and stuff that I've watched, um, basically whole seasons of it. And so and then I'm like I'm on Facebook because I had been kicked off of Facebook for a while, and then I get back on Facebook, and a Facebook friend of mine, has a post talking about young black men killing young black men. And then I was like, this whole first 48 thing, it is nothing but young black men killing young black men. And then you got, you know, you got what? You got cops locking these young guys up. But there's no solution to what's going on. They just, and the sad part about it is that whenever a young black man gets murdered in the streets, you might as well say it's a double murder. And if it's more than one person or whatever, how many ever people are murdered. And the reason why is because the guy that murdered him, he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life, or at least a significant part of his life. I mean, if you go to jail when you're 20 years old and you spend 40 years in prison, that means you're going to be 60 years old. You're going to be my age. And so then I started thinking about it. I was like, wow, I can't imagine if I would have spent my entire lifetime in a jail cell or in a prison cell. And there is a difference between jail and prison. But and so I'm just thinking, and then I'm looking at the responses to the post about about black on black crime, and I really believe, and I gave this stuff a lot of. I'm giving it thought before, but now it's even more prevalent because it's right out there in the open, and we understand what the results of mass incarceration, prison reform, all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to people that are murderers, it's kind of difficult to enact, because if somebody kills somebody else, then it's kind of hard to justify leniency in their sentencing. Now, I don't, and I'm not an advocate um, of the death penalty. I'm not really, in fact, if there's any, I believe like if there's any doubt whatsoever, then that person should be given the benefit of the doubt. Because because we know in this country that we put a lot of people to death that were innocent. So I think that's also, but as long as there's 100% no doubt in our minds that this person is guilty, and that it doesn't really, it's not really going to affect anything, then okay. And I still don't agree with it in that sense, but there needs to be a surety. There needs to be, there's somebody that beyond the shadow of a doubt, beyond, that the person is definitely guilty before you put them in the electric chair, or put them on the table for lethal injection, or whatever it is, however it is you're trying to kill this person. So so I'm just like, black folks, And especially young black men. We need to, we got to figure out a way. We got to figure this out. We got to figure this out. We're not stupid. We're not dumb. But and the other thing is, it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual thing because there are certain areas, and even when you look at these shows, there are certain areas that are places where it just seems like murders just take place, and it's like common everyday occurrence, like Chicago, like Detroit, like Memphis, like all these different places, and if you notice on these shows, that's where they go. That's where they go to film these shows. And on one hand, they're trying to show, oh yeah, well we got these detectives out there, and we're tough on crime, and we're trying to do something to clean up the streets. But on the other hand, you got young men that are just, so I convinced this dude to testify, or to confess or whatever. He confessed, and then they always show like what the sentence was that the guy got. And these guys are going to jail for the rest of their natural lives. The rest of their natural life. So just think however old you are, just think if you would have been in prison for the entire duration of whatever your lifespan has been up to this point. And then you got a person that's going in the ground who's dead and who's never going to, they're dead. So they don't even have the possibility. And most of these guys, they go to prison without the possibility of parole. And you just see it happening over and over and over again in this black on black crime. We got, and the thing is that I talk to I used to talk to my dad, and I talked to my uncles, and older black men, and even in my generation, we didn't kill each other. So when somebody died or somebody was killed, it was like, until I reached high school, it was like a big deal. It was the same thing like with cancer, like the way that cancer has outgrown everything. It's like they used to be like, somebody had cancer, really? And everybody would go, wow, they got cancer. But now it's just commonplace and normal. And it's a spirituality issue. It's a spirituality issue. And everybody try to say, oh, is this, that, and nothing, but it's a spirituality issue. Why do all of those young men in specific areas, Kansas City, St. Louis, why do young men in these areas, why do they end up killing each other? And they don't even, and they put no value on their own lives, and they put no value on anybody else's life. Why? See, all of these questions, these are the things when prison reform comes up, and and you got all these people jumping on the Black Lives Matter and prison reform and all of these things. But the biggest issue that exists in our race is fratricide. That's the biggest issue out there. There ain't no issue bigger than that, because literally there's like 20,000. There are literally like 20 to 30,000 murders each year, which means that another 20 to 30,000. So you're talking about almost 60, 70,000 people are going to jail or dead. Because like I said, remember, the perpetrator of that murder is going to go to jail for the rest of their lives. So every time somebody pulls the trigger, it's just like they might as well shoot themselves in the head. Or like my wife always says, if you dig one grave, you might as well dig two. If you dig one grave, you might as well dig two. And it's ridiculous. And these cop shows, the one thing that it has shown me is that most of it is over nothing. Just like how are you killing over a drug territory, streets that you don't own property on, you don't have any proprietary interest in at all. These are not your, and it's like this certain part of the street, and this street is not even your street. You don't even own the street, and you're fighting over drug territory and turf wars and all of this kind of stuff. And the biggest problem is what? Illicit, illegal drugs. That's part of the motivation. And why is that? Why is it? See, because nobody in the black community, young guys in the black community, okay, we'll put it like this: how many times have you heard a young black man say that made it out say, "I didn't expect to live. I never expected to get this far. It's amazing. It's a miracle that I was able to make it all the way to whatever it is, to graduate college, to start a business, to do whatever." And we know that these young men are brilliant, because if they can run an ongoing criminal enterprise, ongoing drug dealers, an ongoing drug, even if it's illegal, an illegal activity. Well, if they can do that, that they could be great businessmen in a legitimate business. Or the other thing is, it doesn't necessarily, and we see all of this stuff is motivated, and the catalyst is the media, rap music, and we can't keep on denying that, that rap music is not a catalyst, because it is, because it glorifies it, and it shows, look, if I do this, if I act this way, then I can get money. This is a way for me to get up and out, and the only two ways that young black males see themselves coming out of the hood is either what? Either I'm going to play sports, and if I'm good at playing sports, I can get out, or I'm going to be a criminal. Or I'm going to be, or either I'm going to be an entertainer. So I'm going to, and that's another thing. And then half of the rap game is promoted by the drug game. Because drug dealers, what do? They either turn into rappers, or they invest in rappers in order to launder their dirty money. So we got to change that. And I know there are exceptions to every rule, but what I'm saying is, you don't see 60,000 black men, in medical school or law school or accountants or whatever. You don't see that. All we see in front of us, and the number are entertainers and athletes, and even the number of entertainers and athletes is very, very limited. There are not 30,000 jobs in the entire NFL and NBA for young black men. There are not 30,000 jobs in entertainment for 60,000 black men. You might be that one, but then how many are dying compared to how many are actually making it into that situation? There's only, and usually within, there's only a certain amount of people who actually have talent, or who actually have the ability to stay the course in any of those things. I mean, think about it. If you're an athlete, you can get hurt, boom. And the other thing is, you see a lot of athletes and rappers and entertainers. What happens to them? They end up doing things. Why? Because they're still under the spell. they're still under the spell. Anyway, think about that. It's on my mind. Anyway, Fast 15 minutes is up. My name is Judson Powell. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Please hit all the buttons, but most of all, hit the love button.